Niccolò Machiavelli grasped a foundational truth about the human condition that the vast majority of people completely miss. Silence is not emptiness. It is the most lethal weapon in the arsenal of true power. Throughout the annals of history, the most formidable strategists and conquerors were never the ones who shouted their intentions to the world, but rather those who possessed the discipline to say absolutely nothing until the die was cast. A leader who broadcasts his every thought becomes a predictable entity, easy to maneuver against. A general who publicizes his battle plans invites his own destruction. A negotiator who cannot restrain his tongue has already lost the war before the first shot is fired. In our modern era, which is addicted to noise, constant notifications, and the desperate need to be heard, we have abandoned the ancient understanding that real authority is often found in what is left unsaid. In his political treatises, Machiavelli observed that the common man judges far more by what he sees than by what he touches or understands. This is because everyone has eyes to see your facade, but very few have the perception to feel the reality of your character. This axiom is the cornerstone of the strategic use of silence. Those who perfect this art craft an atmosphere of mystery and unpredictability that keeps their rivals in a state of perpetual hesitation. Silence is not a lack of capability. It is power in its most distilled form. It is not a frailty. It is a calculated fortress of strength. The average person has a low tolerance for silence. It generates a visceral discomfort and an awkward tension that they feel physically compelled to resolve. To escape this void, they rush to fill the air with words, with explanations, and with justifications. In this frantic attempt to break the quiet, they inadvertently lay bare their entire hand. Their anxieties, their hidden desires, their tactics, and their vulnerabilities. Meanwhile, the master of silence sits back and merely observes, harvesting this information and gathering intelligence to determine exactly where to strike when the time is right. In his magnum opus, The Prince, a guide intended for rulers and those seeking dominion, Machiavelli counseled that those in positions of authority should speak very rarely about matters of consequence. This is because every word uttered is a potential liability, and every definitive statement is a trap you set for your future self. Those who speak excessively provide their enemies with the very rope used to hang them, whether politically, socially, or strategically. The discipline of silence grants you the luxury of time to think and analyze, while simultaneously forcing your opponents to speak without adequate reflection. In his discourses on Livy, Machiavelli further notes that a prudent leader creates an environment where others bring their thoughts to him, rather than him freely offering his own mind to them. This is the heart of strategic silence. It is not just about keeping your mouth shut. It is about creating a psychological vacuum that others rush to fill with valuable data that you can weaponize against them later. Modern leaders and influencers have largely forgotten this simple yet brutal truth. They bombard the world with endless tweets, press releases, and commentary, revealing their cards before the game has even commenced. In stark contrast, those who genuinely comprehend the mechanics of power speak only when it serves a concrete purpose, when it improves their standing, when it successfully deceives an adversary, or when the silence has already completed its heavy lifting. Machiavelli writes that a powerful individual must learn to be a great pretender and a master of disguise. When applied to communication, this means realizing that not every thought in your head deserves a voice, not every opinion requires a platform, and not every emotion needs validation. Those who speak without a strategic objective, without calculation, are akin to soldiers charging blindly into a machine gun nest. They might survive occasionally through sheer luck, but they will inevitably be outmaneuvered by the patient strategist who waits, watches, and attacks only when victory is a mathematical certainty. Silence manufactures a sense of mystique, and human beings are biologically drawn to what they cannot fully decipher. When a person remains stoic and quiet during a heated discussion, those around them automatically assume they possess deep wisdom. They project authority, control, and intelligence onto the silent figure, while simultaneously exposing their own insecurities through nervous, incessant chatter. This psychological dynamic grants the silent strategist an immediate upper hand before they have uttered a single syllable. Machiavelli understood that information asymmetry is the bedrock of control. The individual who knows more than they reveal will always maintain supremacy, while those who reveal more than they know surrender their advantage without even realizing the transaction has taken place. In any negotiation, conflict, or relationship, the side that controls the flow of information holds the power to dictate the final terms. This is why silence is not merely a tactical trick, it is a strategic necessity. Furthermore, silence creates a decisive advantage in timing. The person who speaks first is often the one who commits to a position, thereby limiting their future maneuverability. The one who waits, however, retains the flexibility to adapt their response to the shifting landscape, to spot the flaws in the opponent's logic, and to identify the optimal moment to act. Machiavelli advised that nothing wastes potential as much as haste, and this applies doubly to our words. Hasty speech reveals intention, exposes your strategy, and eliminates the element of surprise. Consider how many careers and reputations have been incinerated by impulsive statements, emotional outbursts, or unnecessary revelations that could have been avoided with a moment of discipline. In The Art of War, Machiavelli emphasizes that no enterprise is more likely to succeed than one that is kept concealed from the enemy until it is ripe for execution. The exact same principle applies to interpersonal communication. The thoughts you keep hidden are swords that remain sharp. The plans you keep private are ambushes waiting to be sprung. The intentions you mask are advantages your opponent cannot defend against. Silence is not merely the absence of speech. It is the presence of a carefully cultivated power. True masters of this art understand that silence serves multiple functions at once. It protects vital information, it generates an aura of mystery, it compels others to overshare, it builds anticipation, it maintains your flexibility, it demonstrates self-control, and it establishes dominance, all without the expenditure of a single word. There is a profound reason why, in the ancient royal courts and corridors of power, the person who spoke the least was often the one feared the most. Silence communicates a raw strength that words can rarely match. Any fool can talk, but very few can command the attention of a room through their mere presence, through the heavy anticipation of their words, and through the gravity of their silence. The modern world has largely discarded this ancient wisdom. In an age defined by social media, constant status updates, and relentless noise, the person who masters silence immediately distinguishes themselves as mysterious, powerful, and in control. While the masses exhaust themselves with endless chatter, the silent observer watches, plans, calculates, and waits. Silence, conversely, keeps all doors unlocked, all options on the table, and all strategies viable. Observe the behavior of the masses in any meeting or conversation. Most people cannot endure even a few seconds of silence. They rush to fill the gap with noise, anything to escape the awkwardness. But the strategist, the Machiavellian thinker, cherishes this discomfort. They create it intentionally, knowing that human nature will force the other person to speak, to reveal, and to expose themselves, while the silent one simply gathers intelligence. In his writings, Machiavelli observes that the most successful leaders were those who knew how to utilize the appearance of virtue while acting according to necessity. Silence facilitates this duality, allowing one to appear agreeable and compliant, while inwardly planning according to their true self-interest. Those who cannot control their words cannot control their destiny. They become transparent, predictable, and easily manipulated. In contrast, those who speak only with purpose, only with strategy, and only when silence has served its function, maintain absolute control over both the narrative and the outcome. Silence is not just a defensive shield, it is an offensive weapon. It is not just about guarding your own thoughts, but about using the pressure of silence to extract the thoughts of others. The skilled practitioner asks a probing question and then waits, resisting the urge to fill the void, allowing the tension to build until the other person feels an irresistible compulsion to elaborate, to justify, and to reveal far more than they intended. This technique has been employed by the greatest interrogators and negotiators in history, all of whom intuitively understood what Machiavelli formalized centuries ago: the crushing power of strategic silence. There is yet another dimension to this practice that Machiavelli implicitly understood. Silence conveys authority. Those who speak only when necessary, who choose their words with extreme care, and who allow silence to punctuate their statements, are perceived as commanding and deserving of respect. In contrast, those who chatter constantly without restraint, filling every moment with noise, quickly find their words depreciating in value, becoming mere background noise that is easily ignored. Machiavelli advised powerful figures to speak rarely, but to ensure that when they did, their words carried immense weight. This principle is even more relevant in modern power dynamics, where attention is the scarcest resource. In a culture drowning in information, silence creates the space for observation, for study, and for understanding one's opponents. Machiavelli emphasized that anyone seeking influence must be a diligent student of human nature, understanding the motivations and weaknesses of those around them. Silence makes this study possible. When you are speaking, you cannot be listening. When you are talking, you cannot be observing. But when you are silent, your senses are fully engaged, collecting the data that will later prove decisive. Most people never develop this skill because they are too focused on being heard, on proving their intelligence, and on demonstrating their worth through constant verbalization. They never realize that with every unnecessary word, they diminish their power while revealing their insecurities. Machiavelli notes that everyone sees what you appear to be, but few experience what you really are. This gap between appearance and reality is widened through the strategic use of silence, which creates a canvas for others to project their assumptions onto you while you maintain the freedom to act according to your true intentions. The silent individual becomes a mirror, reflecting back the hopes, fears, and expectations of others while revealing nothing of themselves. This is the essence of Machiavellian power dynamics: control over information, asymmetry of knowledge, and manipulation through selective revelation. There is a rhythm to power, a timing that Machiavelli understood intuitively. Knowing when to speak and when to remain silent is not merely about self-control, but about controlling the entire dynamic of the interaction, the flow of information, and the momentum of events. Those who master this rhythm possess an advantage that transcends tactical considerations. It becomes strategic dominance. Machiavelli warned that nothing is more difficult to handle or more doubtful of success than introducing new orders. This applies to communication. The first to speak, the first to commit, sets themselves up as a target. Those who wait and observe gain the advantage of response and adaptation. The mind that speaks without restraint is an open book, easily read and manipulated. The mind that reveals itself selectively and strategically remains a puzzle that others cannot solve. Silence is patience made visible. It is discipline externalized. It is strategy embodied. Those who cannot remain silent, who feel compelled to react immediately, demonstrate a fundamental weakness, a lack of self-mastery that Machiavelli would have recognized as fatal to any serious ambition. Power requires patience, and patience often manifests as silence. Even in negotiation, where words seem essential, silence often proves more effective than speech. The side that can tolerate silence, that can wait, and that does not rush to fill the void with concessions or revealing statements, nearly always gains the upper hand. This is why experienced negotiators train themselves to embrace silence, using it as a tool to force the other side to reveal their bottom line. Machiavelli understood that in politics, in war, and in life, the appearance of strength often matters more than strength itself. Silence projects strength in a way that words rarely can. It communicates confidence, control, and calculation, while excessive speech often betrays insecurity, anxiety, and desperation. The true Machiavellian understands this intuitively, speaks only when speech serves a specific strategic purpose, and allows silence to do the heavy work of establishing dominance. In a world of noise, the silent figure commands attention. In a room of speakers, the silent observer holds the power. In a culture of constant communication, the disciplined practitioner of strategic silence wins every time.